So, David, as you begin to think about congregational culture, what are some practices that you can share with youth ministers on how to shape congregational culture in a way that helps at least kind of attend to the voices of young people in that space?
I think one thing I've been thinking about a lot is the idea of grown-ups, intentionally using that word as not teenagers, being okay and living with uncertainty and paradox. Because I think those things are very relevant to the adolescent experience, but they are also relevant to our experience as adults. And I think a lot of times what I see happening both in youth ministry literature and in practices is there's a sense that at some point we have it all figured out.
Right.
But as I get older and as I am a parent, I am less convinced that that is the case. And I'm more convinced that it's important that we can have those spaces where we are brutally honest with each other. And so much of theology and the theology that I grew up with in seminary, and maybe less so in my church, but I think a lot of it, if we're not careful, can be escapist in the sense of denying the real, I don't know if you want to say horrors, but like the real tragedies that we face in our lives every day. And so I think shifting congregational culture to make it a more hospitable place for teenagers would mean being a little bit more honest with ourselves. Practically, I think one place where that starts is from the pulpit. I think that preaching is a culture shaper. It's a culture shaping activity. And all of worship, really. But preaching in particular, having done it for a short time too, I think people don't necessarily remember all of the things that you say, but they are shaped by the culture, by the epistemologies, by the voices that you bring in. And so that might be one place to begin thinking about shifting the congregational culture. And I think it begins with each of us facing. I'm a big Kierkegaardian existentialist kind of person. If that's not coming out, I think it probably should be a little bit more. But facing our own contingency and our own, in the United States, we have all these narratives of the self-made man and the idea of radical autonomy as being sort of a goal of adolescence. And then that sort of infects our churches, I think, and we act as if that's the case. Yeah. When really, I think the goal of growing up should be more connections and relations with other people who are different than us and the same as us and with the earth. And so that is a big shift to me that is not going to happen overnight. I think that's the challenging thing, is that it has to happen slowly in each individual person and also in our congregations. And so I haven't gotten to the last chapter of my dissertation yet, but I'm imagining that there's going to be a lot in there about theologies of wonder and imagination and creativity. And I have some idea for what voices those are going to be, but I also want to make sure I do the preliminary steps of research first and the interviews and all that. But to me, those kinds of ways of thinking and reshaping how we think and the metrics that we have inside our heads is the first step towards shifting the congregational culture away from one that can't speak back to power and to the culture that we live in, without drawing a hard line between church and culture, but at the same time asking, why church? Why should our young people want to be here and grow up here?